Yes, I have a perfectly good shop table, and this is what it looks like.
Welly, 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 welly. That makes a nice table, doesn't it? Anyway, this is my Simvertex shifter, and this is a video request by hopefully one of my subscribers. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so. This is a lubrication maintenance video. This is exactly what I do to maintain this unit. So first of all, this is what I use. I use synthetic gear oil. This is for manual transmissions and differentials. That's what I use in my WRXs. This is red and tacky wheel bearing and chassis grease. Automotive stuff is typically just built to last. It's built to take a lot of, thousands of miles of abuse, so it can handle, some sim racing with relative ease. Great stuff. You get one tube of it and it lasts years. This is only my second tube in, I'd say, 4 or 5 years, something like that. So if you don't have a manual transmission and you don't change your own differential fluid, this bottle right here will last you a lifetime. And you can put it on door hinges. You can put it on a lot of different stuff. It's good stuff. It's relatively lightweight. It's not super viscous, but it works great for this application. So here we go. So first of all, you're going to want to take your sides off, your black plastic sides, and it's just usually 4 screws on each side. I'm having to reach around a camera and 2 lights to make this happen, so if my hands are in kind of an awkward position, take that into account. If you've never looked inside of this unit, it's awesome, very simple, very utilitarian, and everything's just got a purpose, and it does it well. So basically, you're just going to roll through the gears like you would normally. So first gear, right? And you'll notice the rods pop out like that. So you're going to just address each rod that pops out as you roll through the gears. You're going to put a single drop and come out there. Okay. So that would be just enough, maybe even too much. If you put more in that, it's not a huge deal, and then you just work it in. And that already feels smoother right there. You go into second gear, turn it around, and do the same thing. And if you're wondering what the spring is doing here, it kind of adds a little bit of resistance at the end of the gear travel, and I kind of like it for second gear. I switch back and forth between first, second, and third a lot. It's just kind of nice to have that extra resistance, and it's not necessary, but it feels good. I'm doing a little bit of experimentation. So, yeah, just a single drop, and it'll spread out. Like when you work it, it'll coat the entire surface after a few passes. Keep on going. Third, fourth. And any excess oil is just going to travel all the way to the bottom. And if you're worried about it getting on your rig, don't. It's just oil. If anything, it'll just prevent it from rusting, right? If you got a steel rig. A single drop. Little dabble do ya. And a single drop. Work it in. Feels good. Now you can see all that excess. You're going to need a rag and just to soak it up. Not a big deal. So next you're going to do something similar. You'll notice that there are electronics on one side right here, and there are no electronics over here. So we're going to address the side with no electronics, just to play it safe. So you're going to want to start off in second gear, and you'll notice that you'll be able to see a groove in the rod right there. And that's where you're going to pack your grease. So you're going to take your red and tacky or equivalent grease, take a little goopy finger, and pack it in that groove. Okay? Just like that. And do the same thing as you did before. Just work it in. You're going to want to get it into fourth. Open up that middle rod right there. And honestly, I mean, you could do like a big old gob like that, but, it's not really necessary. This is just to kind of smooth out the action. Pack it in there. And if you got a finger too big for that, congratulations. Same thing with reverse or 6, whatever you want to do. Load it up and work it in. It already feels a lot smoother. Now you will notice in colder temperatures, it'll kind of feel like it has a little bit more resistance if you're using a really thick grease. But once it warms up, it'll just start feeling like butter, and like clacky butter. The last thing you want to do is, again, something similar. we're going to make way. The part that the end of the rod interacts with, these little blocks, you want to pack some grease in there. So you just get a little dab and pack it in. And you might have to use your pinky, or you might even have to use like a tool, like a brush or something, to get some in there. But that will smooth out all that action. The plastic that they use, that super tough like Delrin material, has enough lubricity on its own to not really need any lubrication. You'll have increased longevity if there's a buffer between the two surfaces, because no matter what, friction wears down something. Whatever's the weakest is going to give. So if you put a buffer in between, then you're good to go. It's got enough of a barrier between the two surfaces. It's going to really extend the life of both materials. That's literally the tutorial. It's a very simple process. It's not one you have to do often. I'd say the transmission oil that I use stays on where I put it for roughly 2 or 3 weeks, maybe longer, before I feel like I need to reapply it. It still feels great, but I kind of just like to maintain it. It's almost ritualistic at this point. One thing that you might want to do is actually clean the pre-existing grease and oil off before you do this. Because there's small little pieces of metal, metal particulate. That's what the color change is. If you've noticed, there's like some black marks, and that's where the metal has actually embedded itself in the grease, and the grease is suspending it. That's what grease is good at, and that's why grease is, in my opinion, better than oil for a lot of applications. Grease stays where you put it, and that's why I'm using it on the most intensive surfaces that are really like digging into each other. These ball bearings in these barrels here, the spring and detent, they're pushing down with a pretty good amount of force. That's why it's hard to put it into gear, like depending on your settings. Over time, they're going to wear on each other. So why not prolong the life of your unit and make it to where it has smoother operation throughout its entire life? So anyway, that's the video. Have a good day. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you, I don't want to get that on the lens, in a future video.